You're listening to Uncle Sam Saves America, a patriotic show for the average Joe.
Remember when Donald Trump said that he wanted to buy Greenland? The whole world pretty much laughed at him. It was kind of a bizarre fantasy coming from a president who thought like a real estate broker, right? The left immediately began to call him an imperialist and a whole lot worse, right? But what if we all laughed a little bit too soon? What if the public story was just a smokescreen for a much bigger and way more serious military ambition? See, the evidence suggests that the goal was never really about buying an island. I think most people actually realize that. It was about securing a fortress. Think of it like this, okay? The plan is to build an unsinkable fortress at the top of the world, a permanent kind of guard tower that controls the gateway to the Atlantic Ocean. See, it's not about a real estate deal. It's about strategic thinking behind a war plan for the Arctic Circle. And let's be clear, the Arctic Circle is no longer a frozen, vast wilderness. It's heating up, literally, to be the #1 geopolitical battleground of the century. And as the ice is melting, it's like a new frontier is opening up. New shipping lanes are appearing, and with them new opportunities for conflict, right? It's a modern-day gold rush, but the treasure is strategic dominance. There's two powers, Russia and China, and they're not wasting any time. See, for years, Russia's been methodically rebuilding its old Soviet military-style bases across the Arctic Circle, right? It runs a fleet of nuclear-powered icebreakers, and they've reopened dozens of military posts on their northern coast. The Russians are constantly testing new hypersonic weapons in the polar region, and its northern fleet, right, has the best nuclear submarines, and they're a direct challenge to NATO. And then you have China. Beijing, although they have no Arctic coastline, they've declared themselves a quote-unquote near-Arctic state, right? It's pushing hard with scientific and economic projects, working with Russia to develop the Northern Sea route. And they're dropping some serious cash of their own to buy their own and build their own icebreakers. See, intelligence agencies warn that these civilian projects are Trojan horses, easily used for spying, satellite monitoring, and that kind of thing, and potentially future naval bases. And so the race for the Arctic Circle is on. And from Washington's point of view, America's at risk of being left out in the cold. And here's the wild part, right? The idea of turning Greenland into a strategic base is not a new idea. In fact, it's an old obsession, buried deep underneath the ice sheet. Back during the Cold War, the U.S. military launched one of the most secret and insane engineering projects of all time. It's called Project Iceworm. Now, this is going to sound kind of woo-woo conspiracy theory, but this is a real thing that actually happened, right? The official story is that back in 1959, Camp Century was built as a scientific research station, but the truth was quite a bit more radical, right? It was a test run for a hidden city underneath the ice, a web of tunnels that was designed to be like a secret hornet's nest ready to launch hundreds of missiles. The plan imagined a massive complex run by a portable nuclear reactor, and it was going to be home to thousands of soldiers, and it was going to be invisible to Soviet spies. Camp Century, it was kind of an incredible piece of engineering, actually, but it was shut down in 1967, right? The Army engineers, they figured out that there was something wrong with the ice sheet, and there was nothing that anybody on the planet could do about it. It was unstable. It was a glacier, and it started to move, right? And it was moving like a slow river, and it was going to crush all of the tunnels and any equipment and anything trapped inside them. So Project Iceworm was put on ice, pun intended. But the idea behind it never really actually went away, right? It proved one thing, though. America sees Greenland as not a vast expanse of ice, but as an impenetrable shield. And to get why Greenland is so vital, you just need to know 4 letters. GIUK. The Greenland-Iceland-UK Gap. This piece of ocean is one of the most important choke points on the planet. So imagine it like a castle with only one main gate. And for Russia's Navy, the GIUK Gap is that gate, right? It's the main doorway to the Atlantic Ocean. And if you control that gate, you effectively bottle up Russia's northern fleet, and you get to neutralize its power that it has with its nuclear submarine force. During the Cold War, NATO spent billions on a chain of underwater microphones across that gap that acted kind of like a tripwire whenever the Soviets tried to cross it. But today, that technology is ancient, right? Modern Russian submarines are stealthy, they're advanced, and China is building a world-class navy. And this is where Greenland becomes the absolute important strategic key here, okay? It's like a hinge on that gate. Its location makes its western anchor the GIUK Gap. From its shores, any ship, submarine, or aircraft can project power across this entire critical choke point, right? Without a strong presence in Greenland, controlling the gap is exponentially harder. For any military strategist, you can understand that this island isn't just a piece of real estate, right? It's the fulcrum of a naval power of the North Atlantic. So what would this fortress in Greenland actually look like? Well, it's not about planting any kind of flags. It's about leveraging a 1951 defensive treaty between the US and Denmark to its absolute limit. And the centerpiece is already there. Patuxent Space Base, formerly Thule Air Force Base, which I'm going to refer to it as Thule throughout the rest of this episode, right? It's America's northernmost military installation. And the vision was to transform Thule from a quiet monitoring post into a gigantic watchtower for the entire Arctic Circle. Now, this ambition could involve huge upgrades to its runways for heavy bombers and patrol planes. It could mean installing a new advanced radar systems and sensors that create a surveillance network over the GIUK Gap and deep into the Arctic Circle and deep into the Arctic Ocean. And some have even floated the ideas and concepts of doing a Reagan-era like missile shield. And you've heard President Trump talk about this with wanting to emulate Israel's Iron Dome. And Greenland is a perfect strategic place to be able to do that, to protect the entire northern part of the Western Hemisphere, right? So in this vision, Greenland would become the first line of defense for the U.S. homeland whenever it comes to any attacks that could come from the Arctic Circle. Now, Stephen Miller, one of the top Trump advisors, he's openly questioned Denmark's right to control the island, stating that for the U.S. to secure the Arctic, it's obvious that Greenland must become part of the United States. And this followed late last year, just a month or two ago, the appointment of a Louisiana governor, Jeff Landry, as a special envoy and a volunteer role that he accepted, saying it was an honor to make Greenland a part of the United States, right? And so the message is, while it's not an official, actual plan, it's kind of clear that powerful people want to see control of Greenland as essential, and they're willing to push the boundaries as far as they can go. An American move to militarize Greenland would send shockwaves across the planet. Russia and China, they would see it as a major escalation, kicking off some kind of new arms race in the high north, right? But the first and loudest opposition wouldn't come from our adversaries, it would come from our allies. Leaders from the European nations have all voiced their alarm about it already, stressing that Arctic security has to be a group effort through NATO. But President Trump more and more sees NATO as ineffective. Their point of view, though, is that any unilateral American power play is going to undermine the whole alliance, and Greenland belongs to its people. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen gave a blunt warning, stating that if the United States were to attack a NATO ally, then all bets are off. Her Greenlandic counterpart, Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen, he has called the rhetoric disrespectful and unacceptable, insisting Greenland is our country and we decide our own future. Meanwhile, Greenland itself is caught in the middle. See, the island holds vast untapped resources of rare earth minerals. right? Minerals that are critical to everything from your iPhone to the F-35 that our fighter pilots fly, right? And the people of Greenland are fiercely independent. And while they value the strategic partnerships that they have with the United States, they have no interest in becoming a pawn in someone else's power game, especially ours, right? So sooner or later, though, Greenland is going to have to make a decision. They're going to either have to come on board with the USA, or they're going to have to risk threats from Russia and China that neither Denmark nor NATO can counter. So yes, the world laughed whenever Trump said he wanted to buy Greenland. But the strategic logic driving that ambition is no joke. It's not a laughing matter, right? The Arctic is melting, and new global rivalry is heating up, and Greenland sits right at the center of it all. The story of Project Iceworm shows that American military ambition in the Arctic has deep and sometimes strange roots. And the strategic importance of the GIUK Gap, that single gateway to the Atlantic, is a fact that can't be ignored. And the vision for a fortress in Greenland isn't some kind of back-of-the-napkin kind of fantasy, right? It's a potential future being pushed by influential voices who believe that dominating the Arctic Circle is the key to global power in this century. And that leaves us with a huge question. Who do you want controlling that circle? Russia, China, or America? Well, anyway, thanks for listening.
You're listening to Uncle Sam Saves America, a patriotic show for the average Joe.